That's the amount the Florida tourism industry could lose in just 1 year. It wasn't because of the storm, not because of COVID, but because the politician there decided to stop welcoming their biggest customers, Canadians. The travel world is booming. Paris is packed, Cancun is sold out, and Tokyo is overcrowded. But what about America?
Paris is overflowing with tourists. Tokyo's streets are so crowded you can barely move. Cancun? Sold out months in advance. The global travel boom is stronger than ever. But here's the shocking twist. While the world is celebrating a record surge in tourism, one country is going in the opposite direction. The United States. Billions of dollars are vanishing. Hotels are half empty. Broadway shows have more vacant seats than sold ones, and once bustling destinations like Orlando, Miami, and Las Vegas are running on fumes. The question is, why is the world avoiding America when travel everywhere else is exploding? And what happens if even Brazil, Miami's lifeline, turns its back? Let's break down how America went from being the world's dream vacation to a destination the world is quietly abandoning. Around the world, airports are packed. From London to Rome, from Cancun to Tokyo, airlines are scrambling to add flights because demand is exploding. People want to travel more than ever. Yet, in the United States, the opposite is happening. Tourism has plunged by billions in just a few short months. Orlando, once flooded with Canadian families lining up for Disney rides, is now eerily quiet. New York, the city that never sleeps, is watching its hotel rooms stay empty. Even Miami, the golden capital of Latin flavor and nightlife, is starting to lose the one thing that kept its economy alive: South American tourists. This isn't just a dip in numbers, it's a full-blown crisis. Ordinary workers, taxi drivers, hotel receptionists, waiters are already feeling the pinch. And while America argues about tariffs, walls, and politics, the world is quietly voting with its passports. But who turned away first? Surprisingly, it wasn't Canada. It wasn't even Europe. The first domino to fall came from the East. Transition. And when China walked away, the impact was devastating. For years, American summer camps were packed with kids from Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. They came to learn English, swim in American pools, and spend thousands of dollars in local communities. That industry alone was worth billions. But today, 8 out of every 10 seats are empty. An 80% collapse. Why? A new U.S. visa policy. Even children now face interviews as intense as college applications. Parents see the hassle, the humiliation, and the rejection, and they simply stop coming. Word spreads fast on Chinese social media. Parents warn other parents, "Don't waste your money on the U.S. Take your children to Canada, Australia, or Europe instead." And like dominoes, the once booming industry collapses. The result? A California teacher who once earned thousands extra each summer is left with an empty classroom. A small Massachusetts town that thrived on foreign students now sees its grocery stores and pizza shops empty. Even retirees feel it. Local tax revenues shrink, and public services from libraries to parks face cutbacks. For many Chinese families, America has turned from dream destination into bureaucratic nightmare. And when trust is broken, those families don't just stay away for a year. They often never return. Transition. But China wasn't the only one leaving. The real heartbreak came from America's closest neighbor, the one country everyone assumed would never turn its back: Canada. Not long ago, weekends at the U.S.-Canada border were a ritual. Highways from Toronto to Buffalo, from Vancouver to Seattle, were jammed with Canadian license plates. Families crossed for shopping, baseball games, and casino nights. Now, silence. Border car traffic is down by 43%. Flights from Canada to the US have dropped by 21%. And this isn't a temporary dip. For 5 straight months, Canadians have chosen to stay home or head somewhere else. Some blame the weak Canadian dollar. Others point to rising gas prices. But deeper than economics is psychology. Canadians feel they no longer get value for money in the US. Add in trade tensions, tariffs, and the perception of hostility, and suddenly the neighborly weekend getaway looks less attractive. The impact is massive. For every 10% drop in Canadian visitors, 14,000 US jobs disappear. That means fewer blackjack dealers in Vegas, fewer waiters in Orlando, fewer cab drivers in New York. One Buffalo driver put it best. A few years ago, my weekends were full of Canadians headed to outlet malls. Now I just sit in my car reading the newspaper. Ironically, the wall America once debated building with Mexico never happened. But in the north, an invisible wall rose on its own. And Canadians themselves built it, not with bricks, but with indifference. Transition. And if Canada is gone, the next domino is Europe. And that's where the losses become staggering. Remember when Europeans stood in long lines at JFK Airport, eager to see the Statue of Liberty? Those lines have moved to Santorini, Barcelona, and Rome. The numbers are brutal. UK visitors down 15%. Germany down 28%. Even South Korea dropped 15%. While Europe's tourist hotspots are bursting at the seams, America is bleeding billions, 12.5 billion lost by May, ballooning to 29 billion by July. Why? Experience. In Europe, tourists are greeted with wine and cheese. In America, they wait 2 hours at customs, pay hidden resort fees, and deal with security checks that feel more like interrogations. A cafe owner near Times Square shared bitterly, "I used to hear French and German all day. Now I have time to study German because there are no customers left to practice with." This isn't just lost revenue. It's a collapse of America's reputation as a friendly, welcoming destination. When fatigue outweighs joy, travelers look elsewhere, and Europe has stepped in to claim them. Transition. But if Europe is already gone, what happens if South America, especially Brazil, follows? That's when the storm really hits. Miami's economy lives and dies on South America, especially Brazil. Every year, 28 million South Americans, led by Brazilians, pour $22 billion into Miami. They shop at Aventura Mall, party in South Beach, and buy vacation homes that drive up property prices. But now, that rope is fraying. New tariffs and rising hotel costs make Miami less attractive. Meanwhile, Cancun offers luxury all-inclusive resorts for half the price. Lisbon provides a familiar language, fewer headaches, and a friendlier welcome. Even Buenos Aires, just a short flight away, tempts Brazilians with culture and affordability. For Miami, losing Brazil would be like pulling the plug. Restaurants, hotels, and cruise lines would collapse. Real estate prices could tumble. A Cuban restaurant owner in Little Havana put it bluntly, "The salsa music is still playing, but no one is dancing anymore." If Brazil leaves, Miami doesn't just lose tourists. It loses its identity as South America's playground. Transition. And yet, the most painful blow doesn't even come from abroad. It comes from Americans themselves. Here's the cruel irony. While foreign tourists flee, Americans themselves are packing their bags to go elsewhere. Flights to Cancun, Rome, and Paris are skyrocketing. Cruises to the Caribbean are booked solid. Meanwhile, return flights to the US? Half empty. Why? Because middle-class families and retirees have figured it out. A week in Mexico costs half of what it does in Florida. A European vacation feels richer, more cultural, and often cheaper than a trip to Vegas. All-inclusive packages abroad offer everything: meals, drinks, entertainment, without the resort fees and hidden taxes that plague American destinations. One retired couple from Texas explained it perfectly. "We used to drive to Florida every winter. This year, we chose a Caribbean cruise. Less money, more smiles." For U.S. tourism, this is the deadliest domino. Because once Americans themselves start preferring the world outside, it's not just foreign money leaving, it's domestic dollars too. Transition. And that brings us to the final question, the one America must face head-on. America was once the world's dream vacation, from Vegas lights to New York skyscrapers, from Disney castles to Miami beaches. It was the luxury cafe the world wanted to visit at least once. But today, the cafe is half empty. The chairs are vacant. The neon signs shine only for themselves, and the waiters stand with nothing to serve. China walked away. Canada turned its back. Europe chose other options. Brazil may be next, and even Americans themselves are leaving. This is more than a tourism collapse. It's a mirror reflecting how the world now sees America. Not as a dream, but as a burden. And when trust and joy disappear, money follows. So here's the question: can America rebuild its image as the world's vacation of choice? Or has the dream already been sold cheaper in Cancun, in Rome, and in the Caribbean? The answer doesn't just affect hotels and airlines. It affects every ordinary American family whose jobs, taxes, and communities depend on tourism. And maybe, just maybe, the real crisis isn't about lost visitors, but about a nation losing the trust of its friends.